This What's Working with Cam Marston podcast is brought to you courtesy of Michelob Ultra Beer.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
All right, welcome everyone to another episode of What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is the show designed to bring you the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace trends shaping the workplace, the workforce, and the marketplace around us. I try to find guests that'll give us insights on some trends that are happening out there, that when we learn what they're doing, these guests, when we learn what they're doing, maybe there's something we can steal from them and apply to our own workplace, our own life, and make things just a little bit better for ourselves and those around me. Again, welcome. Thank you all for joining in. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business, all housed at the University of Alabama. Trends is what the show focuses on. And undoubtedly, one of the trends that I'm seeing very clearly around my house, and I'm not real proud of it, but there's no way to deny it, is reality television. My wife and daughters sit there shoulder to shoulder watching some of these reality television shows and just digging it, really engaged in what they're watching on TV. As for me, there's no quicker way to clear the room than reality television. I'll be gone in an instant. There's someone today living on the Eastern Shore over in Baldwin County in the Fairhope area who is doing something similar, but she will quickly correct you if you call it reality television. Scripted romantic comedy. She's earned her chops in television and such out in L.A., had a stint on supporting some of the stars, some of the people on Good Morning America, and really has a remarkable background in creating these kind of scripted comedies, some reality television, but today more scripted comedies. And she's new to our area down here in the southern part of the state and has chosen to make it home. Her first episode, or her first rather show that will come out of her new residence here in South Alabama, is called Love in Fairhope. And it tracks the life and the trajectory of 4 or 5 different women who are bouncing back or entering into new relationships. The goal is not to sit here and have her talk about the show that she's creating, though I'm very interested and want it to be successful for her. It's to learn about the industry, how she does it, how she pitches this show, which she says has been picked up by one of the major streaming platforms and has been endorsed by a star whose name we would all know, but she's not allowed to share with us just yet. So it's on the rise. This third coast, as she referenced it, down in South Alabama, has become, and those of you that live around here know this, and is becoming more and more of a destination for filming television and streaming shows and movies. And she's right at the forefront, having chosen to move here and set up here. We're happy to have her. Her name is Lauren Weber. When we come back from break, I'll be in the studio with Lauren, learning a little bit about her background, what she saw in Fairhope. She landed in Pensacola and then started driving, looking for a new base where she could kind of create something different, and stopped in Fairhope and didn't go an inch further. And what she saw in Fairhope, what her peers out in L.A. think she must be up to these days, and her vision for her show. Meet Lauren Weber when we get back from this break. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business, all housed at the University of Alabama.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
I'd like you to meet my new sponsor, Get the Tea. They carry all natural, non-GMO, organic herbal cleansing teas and supplements. They source their ingredients from the purest available. Your health is an investment that's worthwhile, so why wait? I drink their tea each and every day to help keep my digestive system in check. I'm drinking a glass as I record this right now. It comes in 3 flavors, natural, peppermint, and pomegranate. I'm drinking the peppermint. All of their products are made right here in the USA. Go to getthetea.com and enter code CAM5, that's CAM5, to receive $5 off your first order. That's getthetea.com, code CAM5. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, housed in the Culverhouse College of Business, all housed in the University of Alabama. In the studio today, sitting across from me, is Lauren Weber. She's a guest to our part of the world, but is calling it her home now. We're grateful for that. We'll learn more about that in a moment. Let me give you the opening line of her bio, and you'll learn what we're getting in for here today. Lauren is an Emmy-nominated producer who's been developing, selling, and producing television in New York, Los Angeles, Miami, and several parts of the world for over 15 years. After show running some of the biggest hits on the air, Lauren opened her own boutique production company, Tremont Road. Currently, it's the only production company in non-fiction programming that is solely owned and operated by a woman. Lauren, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to What's Working.
Thanks for having me.
Tell us about yourself. Here's a very broad question that I'm not even going to guide you on. Just tell us about yourself. You're a remarkable talent. Tell us about yourself.
Oh, my goodness. Where do I begin?
Exactly. That's the test. Where will you begin?
Where do I begin? I am a TV producer. I've been one, like you said, for over 20 years, originally from Ohio.
Yeah.
I've been producing for a very long time. I don't even know I'm a dog owner. Give me more specifics here.
Okay, so your background includes America's Top Model. You were involved in the following. I'll read some of these that are italicized on your bio. America's Top Model for the CW, co-executive produced City Girl Diaries, co-executive produced Married to Medicine Houston. Shaws of Sunset, Summer House, The Hills, New Beginnings for MTV, and then one called Skin Decision, Before and After for Netflix. How did you get into this?
So I started in college. I went to Lehigh, and I decided to spend a year in New York at Columbia. And the war was going on then, the Iraq War. So I decided to get an internship at Good Morning America, and I wanted to start in news and world news. So I spent all of college going between Pennsylvania to finish, and then I would come into New York to intern at Good Morning America. So I spent about 2 years in news at the time. Went to go work for Barb Corcoran, who's now on the Shark Tank. She had just sold her company, and she said, "Come on, get me on TV." I was like 25 at the time. And so I spent several years producing morning show segments for her, lifestyle, to get her on TV. We eventually got her on Shark Tank. I moved to LA. Reality TV had just taken off. I mean, The Bachelor had just started airing. No one really knew what it was. And I started working at a talent agency. If you've seen any of Swimming with Sharks or Entourage, that was very much my life, and just worked my way up the ladder. I always knew I wanted a production company. 20 years ago, I knew I wanted a production company. And so I just took the PA job and the AP job and schlepped bags and worked as an assistant and then eventually became a showrunner.
And you're doing what in Fairhope, Alabama today?
Well, I am living here now. I moved my production company here, and we are shooting a show that will air next fall for a streaming platform centered around women in Fairhope navigating love in a small town.
Yeah. Now, you've called it, I wrote this down so I didn't get it wrong, real-life romantic comedy. So real-life romantic comedy means what?
That's a good question. So I created this show, and it was based off the idea that women love romantic comedies and we love romantic shows. We love Virgin River and reality shows are anything but romantic, in my opinion. And so I thought, well, what if we could find a town that felt like a Nicholas Sparks movie and cast 5 generations of women from 20 to 80.
Not related. These are not
related,
aunts and uncles or anything like that. These are 5 random ladies.
Yeah, they're 5 carefully casted women who are at very different stages of romance and different stages of life. And they are 5 degrees of separation. So they're not related, they're not friends, but maybe they have a friend in common.
Yeah.
And so we overlap their stories, and then it's narrated by a woman who's wonderful. She's in her 70s, and she's the town poet. So every episode has a love lesson.
A love lesson.
Yes.
And each episode lasts roughly how long?
We're working that out right now, but at about 42 minutes.
42 minutes, and each character, do we call them a character? Each cast member? Each cast member is featured in those 42 minutes, or is it one episode on one person, the next episode on the next person?
All 5 women will overlap, but a story will be predominantly through the eyes of one woman.
Do they come together, these 5 women, and sit and talk around a table to talk about what's going on with themselves and each other?
Sometimes, yeah. I mean, when it's organic, when it makes sense. Rarely will all 5 be together. We're really trying to honor the natural connections of the women and also lean into a multi-generational story. We're trying to really feel what it's like in your 20s and embrace that group of people in their 20s, and then your 50s looks very different. So that's the feeling of the show, is that we're crossing between generations.
How much content are these ladies giving you to say, here's where I am? Are they supporting their story, or are you driving their story?
It's a collaboration. We go based off of where they are now, where they hope to be in about 6 months, and then we sort of work with them to come up with a story that we think is based on their life, but will be a bit more elevated and more entertaining.
Give me an example of what you throw into the script to make it more elevated and more entertaining.
Well, I can't do it with this show, but I will say that, our shows in the past, if we were just following everybody's real life as is, it would be very boring, to be honest with you.
Mine sure would be, and I thank God for it.
Yeah. And so I think the days of just watching people be loud and ridiculous, which is what worked for a long time, it doesn't work. We're bored by it. So a lot of what we try to do now is pick people that have a trajectory of, let's just say they're getting married, and then maybe they get cold feet, because that happens. I mean, we really try to expedite choices that they make and try to make them into moments that feel big and cinematic and dramatic, like it would feel like a scripted show.
So give me an example on a previous show where you made that happen.
Well, we had 2 casts who were getting married, and they were having a lot of debates about whether they wanted to have children. And so one didn't and the other one did. And so they would have typically ignored it and just gotten married. And we were like, let's really
get into this.
Get into it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean you have to fight, but it means that we need to make a moment of it. We need to make it real, and we need to make it something that may or may not make you walk down the aisle.
Right.
And so I think it was based on truth, but it was drawn out for a better story.
So you have identified Fairhope as the place that you want to set up shop. Mm-hmm. What did you see there? I mean, Fairhope is a charming community. It's absolutely beautiful. Everybody from the state of Alabama who's been there recognizes that. In fact, everybody that's ever been there recognizes that. It's hard to find anybody from Fairhope anymore. But what did you see there through your eye as a television person? What appealed to you about that community?
So it's twofold for me, because originally when I had come up with this idea, I was living in New York at the time, and I thought I had done a lot of research in terms of areas of the country that we could base the story that were beautiful, just aesthetically beautiful, and small town, and had really been looking at Magnolia Springs and that. I had never been to Alabama.
Yeah, you told me you flew to Atlanta, is it, or Pensacola?
I flew to Pensacola.
Rented a car?
Yeah, I rented a car, and everyone said, "You're out of your mind. What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I just have a feeling it's in Alabama. I feel like the story is in Alabama." So went to Magnolia Springs, stayed at the Magnolia Springs Inn, which is amazing, was taken by the beauty, but knew it wasn't big enough to hold a story. And then the owner said, "You got to go see my friend Paige at the Fairhope and just spend the night there on your way to Ocean Springs, because that's where I thought maybe what the next stop is." And I mean, pulled into Fairhope, hadn't researched it, was taken. I'm sure you hear this all the time. So taken by the beauty of it, first and foremost, the natural light, the water, the trees, and then when I went to the Fairhope Inn and I saw how people were interacting and the community feeling, and everybody knew everybody, and the person at the bar was sisters with it all unfolded in front of me. And that's when we decided to base the show here. And then I fell so in love with it that I moved my life here.
Yeah, it's not an uncommon story. And I'm grateful that you're here. You're bringing a wealth of talent and ideas to our community, and happy to have you. When we come back, I want to talk to you about storytelling and what you do. You and I had this conversation before we started here, because it's what I try for. I enjoy a good storyteller. Everybody does. But in the moment, as you're watching these characters, these cast members, interact with one another, you got to be tracking the story somewhere. You can't just enjoy it. You got to be working. Let's talk about what you see in the moment to determine whether this is doing what you want or not. I'm in the studio today. Lauren Weber is sitting across from me. She's come to South Alabama from the other LA and has chosen to make a home here. We're happy to have her. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. We'll be back after this break. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business, all housed at the University of Alabama. Sitting with Cajun Mike, owner E3 Termite and Pest Control. Cajun Mike, there are people I know that think their house is fully protected because there's some bait stations around the house. What's your thoughts?
My thought personally is bait stations do work. However, I do not believe in them as a standalone product.
What else do they need?
We do 3, 4, sometimes 5 or 6 treatments on a house. We will do a true liquid perimeter treatment. We do hollow void treatments, and we use bore care on wood when we can access it.
It's a thorough treatment, top to bottom, it sounds like, much more so than the bait station.
That is correct.
How do they find you, Cajun Mike?
They can find me at 251-850-PEST or e3pest.com.
e3pest.com. I'd like you to meet my new sponsor, Get the Tea. They carry all natural, non-GMO, organic herbal cleansing teas and supplements. They source their ingredients from the purest available. Your health is an investment that's worthwhile, so why wait? I drink their tea each and every day to help keep my digestive system in check. I'm drinking a glass as I record this right now. It comes in 3 flavors, natural, peppermint, and pomegranate. I'm drinking the peppermint. All of their products are made right here in the USA. Go to getthetea.com and enter code CAM5, that's CAM5, to receive $5 off your first order. That's getthetea.com, code CAM5. We're back. You're listening to What's Working. Lauren Weber is sitting across from me. I'll pick up another part of her bio here. In the early days of Lauren's career, she cut her teeth producing studio-based competition series, such as America's Top Model for the CW. Soon after, she spent several years developing and selling shows for Discovery Studios, Fremantle Media, during which she created, sold, and co-executive produced City Girl Diaries for the Style Network, and developed straight-to-series and co-executive produced Married to Medicine Houston for Bravo. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culverhouse College of Business, University of Alabama. Lauren, storytelling. People have been fond of storytelling since we sat around the fires long time ago. But you have to tell it not just for the unreal time entertainment of those people who you're sitting at the bar with, but know what you're capturing so that it can be edited and turned into a compelling story. That's a skill that I don't have. Talk to me about that, how you've developed it and what you're watching in the moment to determine, is this going to work?
That's a good question. I mean,
I'm in the business
challenging.
Of good questions.
You are in the business of that. Good storytelling is so different depending on the medium. So if you're writing a song, it's different than TV. TV is very complicated, and people think sometimes when they watch a show, I could do that. Well, but it's to me, telling a good story composes about 4 or 5 elements. So you have to have a good cast, one that lights up a camera that people want to watch.
And that's content I'd love to hear you talk about too.
Yeah.
What happens on the screen when you do a screen test? What are you looking for? Do you just see something there?
Yeah, I mean, we look for the most part, if I can't peel my eyes away from someone and I'm not bored by them and I want to hear what they keep saying and I'm drawn to that person, odds are other people are. So, and the odds of someone doing all of those things on camera is slim to none. It's very hard to find people who just have it, and it's a guttural and sometimes we're wrong. I mean, sometimes we'll pick people and then we start shooting and they're not that good. So it's just like acting, I think.
Okay. So one of the elements of storytelling is a compelling personality on the other side of the camera.
Yes. So
what
there's
else?
1. 2 is a good story to tell, right? So that's either a script or we're following a good story. The 3rd is how we capture it. What's the background like? Is it beautiful to watch? What do the scenes look like? What's the directing? Because if it doesn't look good or if it's not doesn't have a tone to it, who cares what they're talking about?
Right.
And then the 3rd, which is where I think so much of it comes together, is how it's edited. So you can shoot something that's really interesting, and if it's edited wrong or it's edited to the wrong music or it's not in the right pace, or they're talking too long, it's not interesting. So all of those elements are kind of, and then there's the hit factor, which is sometimes we don't know why shows or stories resonate with people. I think we gutturally feel after you've been producing long enough. I mean, is it relatable? Does it make you feel something? Does it move you? Does it make you cry, angry, scared? If it doesn't move any emotion, odds are it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So as you're watching this, you're standing behind the camera, you're watching these people, all of this is happening at the same time, thinking this needs to happen differently, or this is going wonderfully well. At what point do you, since it is a real life romantic comedy, can you say stop?
Yes.
Stop, say that differently,
Yes.
or I want you to have a different opinion about what she just said, or something like that?
Yeah. A lot of times, and I think where the difference of what I have found sitting and waiting for something to become interesting for 4 hours is a waste of time.
Yeah.
But I think through spending a lot of time in edit, which is what I've done, my career has been between shooting, directing, and editing. I know intuitively this is not going to become something.
Yeah.
And I know how to mix it up, which is, okay, we're either going to scrap this because the two of you together are just not interesting and it's a chemistry thing, or you're not opening up, or you're tired today. So a lot of it is directing. It's getting people on the headset of, if you're talking about something serious, then you need to go deeper into a conversation and get to the root of what you're trying to say. If it's supposed to be an action, day at the beach and fun, romantic date, then if you guys are just sitting across from each other and acting like friends, well, that's not interesting. So sometimes we say, give each other looks. It's directing scenes just like a movie.
So romantic comedies have been on the palate of the Americans forever, and I would say perhaps well before that. This is not a genre that I know a lot about, but I would suspect it's a go-to. It's an evergreen subject matter. Is that correct? Like cop shows.
Yes. Especially for women. I hate to generalize, but I grew up on Nancy Meyer movies, Nora Ephron movies. I created this show because my mom and I didn't have anything to watch on TV anymore, and we felt like rom-coms and romantic shows were going away. I think love is interesting to everybody, and love encompasses so many emotions.
Yeah.
So we just knew when we focused on that through different generations, we were going to get sad, happy, angry, jealousy, lust. It's all of it.
Can you tell me about the cast?
A little bit, yeah. I can give you broad strokes.
Tell me what you can.
Yeah. So our cast is incredible. They're 5 generations of women. We have a woman in her 20s, just graduated, and she's going through that phase of, who am I? I want to move to a big city. I want to spread my wings. And that's your 20s, finding out who you are. Love is on her radar, but not really, not serious. We have a woman in her 30s from Fairhope who all of her friends are getting married. She's not dying to get married, but she's feeling the pressure, especially in the South.
She wants to have a wedding.
Well, she doesn't, which is interesting because I think, and I don't mean to generalize this region, but it seems like there is, by the time you get to that age, an assumption that you're going to get married. And so I think she's navigating the pressures of her family, friends, and community and what she actually wants for her life. And so that's also interesting. We have a woman in her early 40s who just got divorced, and she's navigating what that means in a small community. Sort of some of the assumptions that are made about you, navigating dating again after she was been married for a long time.
Yeah.
We have a couple, we have a gay couple who's navigating that in the South. And then we have a woman in her 70s who just lost her husband. And she's the narrator. She's a town poet. She's the wise sage of the community. She's the one who's imparting wisdom onto all of us.
Right, right.
And trying to look at love retrospectively, which is interesting.
That is interesting.
Yeah.
So she can give perspective to each of these ladies.
Exactly. In which case she's doing it to the audience, but she's narrating the story.
Sure.
And so I've always found it interesting to, you know, we gather around our grandmothers, we gather around even our moms to say, like, don't do that.
Right.
Don't date that guy, or all of those things. And so she's giving broad stroke themes throughout the episodes.
She's the elder. She's the wisdom source.
Yes. But she's also, you know, she's going to be dating.
So she's back out there,
She's back out there, and her romantic life is more exciting than some of the younger people.
Yeah, well, she's got to find somebody that can drive at night. I understand if you're 70-something years old and can drive at night still, you are a hot man in any community. They're like, gosh, he's ugly as a dog, but he drives at night. I'll take him. Somebody will take me out.
I think, you know, at every age, there's an onion peel of not caring as much.
Right.
But that's what I'm learning on the show, is that what I'm looking forward to is that you get to that point of, here's who I am, take it or leave it, and it probably makes dating easier.
What is success going to look like on the other side of this thing? I mean, you've been successful to have proposed it, to have had somebody interested in it. There's all kinds of, I guess, metrics you could say that would say, yes, this is successful so far. But it's going to begin in a year-ish about. Yeah. Is that right?
So I am going to LA as we speak. We are our post facilities there. We are about 3/4 of the way shooting. We are stopping down to see what we've shot, which is a big part of it. Because to your original point, how do you know if you have good scenes? So we stop down, we assess, we see how many episodes we have. We'll go back up around Mardi Gras time, and we'll do some reshoots. Sometimes we have to do reshoots, and we'll shoot the final episodes, and then we'll continue to edit, and then it'll air in September of next year.
September of next year. Yeah. And it'll be how many episodes?
10.
So September of next year, 10 episodes. And you're sitting, let's say it's December of next year. It's nearly 1 year from where you and I are talking right now. And you'll say this was successful or unsuccessful. What is the measurement of success you're using on the show?
So success to me, and business success and success as an artist, sometimes they're different.
Well, let's go down both roads.
Yes,
this is curious to me.
Success to me is creating a show that people watch, that it resonates with, that is recognized on an artistic level, whether that's an Emmy or a Critics' Choice, where people say that is beautifully told and the ones who watch it love it. On a business side, especially for a streaming platform, there is a very scientific measurement for success. So the good news about being a creator in the streaming market now is we have algorithms that we get data on when we produce a show. So a streaming platform will say, okay, your show aired. It's been 20 days. Here's how it's performing all over the world. Mm-hmm. People stopped watching it after 2 minutes. Oh. And it's hurtful at first. Yeah. You know, when I did my Netflix show, it was like you're so in love with your work that when you see that, you know, however many people drop off, or it's actually gratifying because you see that people all over the world are watching it. But back to the success measurement. Depends on the platform, but for the most part, for the ones that release all at the same time, Netflix does that. They'll drop 10, they'll drop 8. It's, you know, can you binge it? Is the audience binging within 20 to 25 days?
And that's information you'll get shortly after beginning.
Yep, and that a lot of times dictates the renewal. Now, sometimes, you know, a show will become word of mouth, or it's kind of that niche-y show that, like, just has a unique audience that over a couple seasons like Yellowstone did that, right?
Yeah.
The streaming platform we're working with now, we don't know if we're going to be doing drop releases or like all 10 at the same time. I don't know that yet.
Yeah.
But I do know after producing for streaming platforms now that you have to get people immersed so quickly. And if they don't stay after 3 minutes, you're done.
Let's talk about, when we come back from break, let's talk about how you market these things and if it's your job or their job or both of your job to do so. And secondly, let's assume this thing goes off the charts and they say, Lauren, that was absolutely fantastic. What's next? And I'm wondering, seldom do I find a creative who isn't already thinking about what's next. So we'll do that after break. Lauren Weber is sitting across from me. She's producing here in the South Alabama area in Fairhope a real-life romantic comedy. She's uprooted from L.A. and has chosen to make her home here because she sees potential in our part of the world, and I'm grateful for that. You're listening to What's Working. We'll be back after this break. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, Culverhouse College of Business, University of Alabama.
They say consistency is the key to success. They weren't wrong. So how about grabbing a beer that's consistently smooth, consistently refreshing, and consistently light? You might just find that the road to success can be pretty enjoyable. Michelob Ultra, the perfect balance of taste and refreshment, and only 2.6 carbs and 95 calories. It's only worth it if you enjoy it. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Michelob Ultra Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Customer service never goes out of style. In fact, I think it's safe to say that customer service is more valuable and more important now more than ever. Hi, this is Cam Marston. One thing that my over 200 episodes of What's Working has taught me is how important customer service is to building and maintaining a thriving business. It's the growing need for customer service that's led me to partner with one of the state's leading customer service trainers to create our program called Delivering 5-Star Customer Service. Your team will get one 90-minute training session per month for 6 consecutive months. Each session builds on the skills learned the previous month, allowing your customer-facing teams to practice before moving on to the next lesson. And the 6 lessons address everything from appearance to electronic communications to conflict resolution to maintaining a service mindset. Our program travels and is delivered in person at your workplace, nothing virtual. You simply can't practice the level of the skills this course teaches virtually. For more information, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's schedule a time to talk. Remember, you have less to fear from outside competition than you do from discourtesy and bad service from inside your own company. Again, email me, cam@cammarston.com, and let's talk about your business. What does it look like?
So I think that will happen with the show. Our goal for Love and Fairhope is to have it be franchisable. So we want to do this in small towns all over the country.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so that's why we chose the name. And in success of the show, not only will it do a season 2, but we'll spin off into maybe, a northern part of the country or whatnot. So we want to do little Hallmark movies all over. But then in terms of my plan, I have been self-financing intentionally because I want to create shows that I care about. But ultimately, I'm trying to scale to a full-service production company, which means I have full control creatively. Once I get the financing from a studio, it runs through my company. And so next year, I'll be going out for financing for my company. Our goal is to create more feel-good shows, to employ more women, put more women behind the camera, in front of the camera, all of that kind of stuff. And to really become like the Tyler Perry of Alabama.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we're trying to do, build a studio.
So you and I talked about this prior to beginning the interview, and we are here in Alabama completely, often subject to stereotypes of what it's like here. And it's remarkable how powerful many of these stereotypes are to people who aren't from this part of the world. They truly don't know whether we have shoes. It's, where I travel. You're going to tell a beautiful story, I know, and change the opinions of people about South Alabama, which is wonderful. There's a part of me that says, and then they'll start coming.
Oh, you bet. They're coming. Buy the little juicery shop now.
Yeah. This little corner of the world that we like so much, suddenly they're going to start coming. Talk to me a little bit about that. There's certain part of being so proud of your part of the country, however, wanting it to be a secret at the same time.
Well, it's funny because when I first discovered this place, I thought, okay, well, not only is this where our show is going to be, but this is going to be the third coast of Hollywood. How has no one discovered Pensacola to Alabama for facilities space and also to be filming? I know they've been doing movies, but bigger production. Now that I live here, I don't want people moving here, but I do feel a responsibility now that I feel so connected to this part of the country to tell a modern story, a real story about the authenticity of here, the heart of the people who live here, the beauty of this land. There's so much that people don't understand.
Yeah.
And even though I'm not from here, I'm kind of acting as a conduit, I think.
Oh, yeah. I can see that already.
Yeah. And so I'm very, very proud of this area. And I hope that I can accurately portray it. We've been working with locals a lot too. So a lot of our crew is from here, which has been important for us to translate the culture in a way that knowing that we're outsiders,
right.
we're getting it right. So
what has surprised you the most? So how long have you been in South Alabama?
I've been here for 6 months.
Okay. Yeah. What has surprised you the most? Something you've seen or a conversation that you've had that you absolutely could not have expected to have prior to moving here?
The open-mindedness. I mean, I think I lived on the coast for so long, and you get such a distorted view of the rest of the country. You think you live in this epicenter of art and open-mindedness and innovation, and being here and being in a community that's artistic and open-minded in a region of the country that I think most people think the opposite has been surprising. The other thing that's been hard to get used to is like how your privacy is not. There's a little bit of that. I'm a very private kind of shy person. And so learning to feel like, oh, I saw you in the grocery store buying tomatoes. And it was like,
they're following me.
I don't mean it like that because it's everybody to everybody.
They're trying to be neighborly and recognize you.
No, and I love it. And it's a good thing I live a clean life,
Yeah, it's a good thing. I was told that years ago. You go out in this town and you show your tail. That's not the expression that they used. On a Saturday night, everybody in your workplace will know by noon on Tuesday.
Yeah.
So bear in mind that there are eyeballs everywhere. And it's not, no one's trying to catch you, but it's just a small community.
And I think the other thing I'll say that I do love about it, because I grew up in a similar small town in Ohio, is accountability. I think when you live in the big cities, you can just act however you want. I think that's why there's a lot of bad behavior. And to know that everybody's interconnected, I think elevates people's behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So one of the things, I want to go back to the streaming service, and I forget where I learned this or heard it, but the streaming services enable an artist like yourself to be an artist. You do not have to try to get a Nielsen rating of 15 or anything like that. If you get a 2 or a 3, I'm making stuff up. They think that on the streaming world, hey man, that's a hit.
Yes.
That's it. And it allows the artist to go deep.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Oh, it's been amazing. I mean, I've worked with now Netflix and Hulu, both of whom I haven't worked with Peacock yet. I haven't worked with HBO yet, but they have been incredible to me as an artist. I mean, they support what you need. They really lean on your vision.
Mm-hmm.
And then they help guide you towards their business model. So you're not just like making your own little art project. I think it's important to keep in mind the things that are working for their audience. What's their demo? I mean, those are things that we have to keep in mind when we're making a show. Otherwise, go make your little indie film, you know? So yeah, I think my experience has been incredible. It's very liberating. They're very supportive, and they really want the authentic vision to be yours.
Yeah, yeah. And tell me about the pitch. When you go to them and pitch, is it, I mean, I remember now where I heard it. It was a Malcolm Gladwell podcast on on a television series whose name escapes me right now. But the pitch, he said, had to be perfect in the network days. Your pitch, when you pitch this show, tell me about that.
So I pitch, most production companies pitch multiple times a month. I pitch 3 times a year. And the only reason I do that is because by the time I go in to pitch a show, I have to so believe in it that I would go finance it myself if I could. And it usually has a story. It usually has personal meaning to me. And by the time I sit in front of a buyer, especially with this project, I had already self-financed a pilot. So there was no question of what it was going to look like. We had already edited a 20-minute tape to say, this is what you're going to be buying. So by the time it's usually a epic story, a 20-minute story to them. They then watch the tape, and then we have about a 50-page creative Bible of here's how the series will be shot, here's what the stories are going to be. So we take a lot of the questions out.
That's an extraordinary amount of work.
It's a ton of work.
And for them to say no thank you. And if they do say no thank you, can you go to the next place?
Yeah, so we have, our current project with Fairhope was just such a blessed journey. I've never seen a show sell so quickly, move along so quickly. That doesn't happen. We have a show right now that we have been refurbishing it for 8 years.
No kidding.
And a streaming service finally bought the pilot. We did the pilot. We were like, this is it. And then they passed, and now we're back pitching it again. And then someone bought it again, and then they passed. And so you have to decide. I think a lot of it is, how long are you going to keep? Are you going to do the Queen's Gambit thing? Because that doesn't happen very often. This is I pitch it 80 times. And so I think I have maybe one project that I really will do that journey with. But, most shows, like our show with Netflix, took 3 years to get into production. They bought it in a month, and then the cast backed out. Then we had to recast it. And it's now in production. And that was 3 years later.
So is it possible for me, let's say me, and I don't have your pedigree all over your bio, remarkable, to pick up the phone and call a Netflix and say, hey, I got a show idea. Are they that open to new content that I could get in there? Or is it only if you're sitting in the waiting room to pitch your show, you're around other people who've been cut their teeth doing this for a long time already?
So the short answer is no. Anyone that has an idea cannot just walk into Netflix. But the encouraging longer answer is streaming platforms want new voices. They want outside ideas that are outside the box. If you have a show idea, which a lot of people have show ideas, so it's more than that. But if you have a script, if you have an original idea, if you've optioned a book, the best thing to do is partner with a seasoned showrunner production company, and they will usually bring it in and then do all the things I told you about. Make a tape. Do it. That's what it needs: a tape. It needs a deck, and then it's their relationship or my relationship with the buyers that then at least gets you in the door. And that relationship is important. It's built off of experience of you producing shows for them in the past, so they know that when they buy from you, they're not going to get messed over. You have credibility. You have proof of performance in the past. Therefore, they'll take your call, for lack of a better term. Yes, but sometimes on a log line, even if you know the buyers, they're like, we're not buying that right now. So, they're particular about their time. They get pitched all the time. So,
is there a trend in shows? Like we're talking about romantic comedy, that's an evergreen show. Are there other kind of subtle trends or anything like that?
Oh, it's just like music. So everybody kind of goes where, true crime will do well. True crime did really well after COVID. You probably saw that, docs and whatever. So everybody was going to true crime. Now everyone's out of their house. COVID's passing. Everyone's sick of bad news. Everyone's sick of being scared. I think romance this year that is a trend. We're going to see feel good. We're going to see family-oriented shows. We're going to see lighter content. That's what my company's focusing on. But I think a lot of buyers right now are saying, people want to feel good. They want to have hope. They want to escape. So you're going to see more of that.
I'm glad you're here. Welcome to our part of the world.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I hope you find it a wonderful future here. I hope you have great success here. I'd love to get you back behind the microphone again in about a year as this thing is launching and getting traction to talk about what this next year is going to be like. So what's next on your agenda? I'm not talking about where you go after we turn the mics off, but what's the next big step in the show?
The next big step is I'm going to LA this week, and we're going to plot how many episodes we've actually shot and go back up at the top of the year, shoot the final 2, and then we're in edit.
Yeah.
And then we have my company has another show in LA that we're doing at the same time. So
When you're in edit, do you do that here locally or is that out in LA?
So we, our streaming partner was amazing and allowed us to have an edit facility here while we were shooting. So we were able to see, that doesn't happen all the time.
Yeah.
We were able to see what we were shooting. Now all of the footage lives in LA because that's like our production space.
Right.
So yes, we've been able to see what we shot, but now we have to kind of step back and look at the 75 days of footage that we've shot.
Good Lord. Good Lord.
Yeah.
Lauren Weber. Lauren, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We'll be back after this break. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culver House College of Business, University of Alabama. After this break, segment 5, we'll talk about what we've heard as well as what's upcoming on the next show. This is Cam Marston in the studio with Cajun Mike. Cajun Mike, what's going on at E3 Pest Control? What you guys doing today that's different?
Well, what we're doing different is we are treating homes that have spray foam installation, and we're able to give them a full bond, whereas other companies are not able to.
How does the treatment work with the spray foam?
Basically, we spray the spray foam with Bore Care. Bore Care absorbs into the spray foam. It prevents termites from landing on it and creating an above-ground carton.
Is there any restrictions or limits to how you can do this, or is it any home with spray foam?
Basically, any home with spray foam.
How do they find you, Cajun Mike?
Find me at 251-850-7378 or e3pest.com.
That's e3pest.com.
Hey, this is Christy Bush. When I'm not coaching parents or telling amazing stories to teens about how to stay safe online, I'm listening to What's Working with Cam Marston. Now, back to the show.
Kind of cool to have somebody who does something so very different than what I'm familiar with in our own backyard here in Alabama and gushing about what she sees. How flattering is that? Very proud to have her here and very eager to see what she does. Her heart's in the right place. It's not reality television of, people screaming and hollering at each other and creating extraordinary scenes in public places. It's a little bit more couth than that. It's a little bit more, let's say, genuine, I guess. Anyway, we're back. You're listening to What's Working. I'm Cam Marston. What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate at the Culver House College of Business, all housed at the University of Alabama. And I want to thank Lauren. When I first made contact with her, she said, yes, I'm very interested in doing this. I'd love people to hear what I got going on down here. And I love talking about my work. But as you heard in the interview, I got to head off to LA real quick. So unless we can get this on the calendar soon, I'm not sure when we're going to be able to do it. And she opened up her calendar to come into the studio and sit down with me. And I'm grateful for that. I think everybody in us kind of wants to be a star. I think that's a universal thing, but well, maybe not universal, but most of us like the idea of being famous. And those that don't, they have a different control of their ego, I guess, than I may. But the idea of being famous seems to be a nearly universal drug. It's ironic, though, that the famous people are the ones that say, this isn't all it's cracked up to be. I'll never forget reading an interview with Harrison Ford. And this was years ago. And they said, Harrison Ford, you got everything you want. You got pockets full of money and houses and all the possessions you could possibly want. And the strange thing, the more famous you get, the more people want to give you stuff. And you really got all the affluence you need to get whatever you want, but people are buying you lunch and giving you things. Harrison Ford, if you could have anything that you wanted, what would it be? And his answer without missing a beat would be anonymity. Anonymity. I'd like to go to the grocery store and not get stopped by somebody that wants a picture. You think that's what so many people want in the fame is that attention. Yet when they get it, they kind of regret it. Very interesting. It'll be interesting to see if the ladies that are being featured in Love and Fairhope are go through anything like that. It likely won't be on the scale of a Harrison Ford. But nevertheless, they may resent walking into the grocery store and being stopped on a regular basis. Lauren, thank you for your time. We're happy you're here. We hope you grow roots here and find a future here. You spelled it out on the show. We hope it all happens for you. Show is produced by John Thompson with Ion Digital. Thank you, John. Every time I say that, it's a day he can't drink beer on the boat. And What's Working is brought to you by the Alabama Center for Real Estate, Culver House College of Business, University of Alabama.